Welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight. I know you're very busy people. To ensure you're in the right place, raise your hand if you're here to understand the financial roadmap of sending your kids to college. Wonderful. Excellent. Well, my name's Monica Felton, and I'm a certified financial planner in Scottsdale, Arizona. For 18 years, I've been guiding families on the financial how to send your kids to college. I learned very early in my financial planning career that traditional financial planning does very little to help families prepare for the crushing cost of college. So I became a college planning expert, a college financial planning expert. For many of you, this information is going to feel like a sledgehammer. It's a lot. And as we go through this, you're going to have a lot of emotions and feelings. And please know that's totally normal. College planning is so wildly different now than it was when you and I went to school. But here's what I know after helping so many families. You can do this. You can make well-informed decisions about college planning, college savings, college selection, and how you ultimately pay for college, but you do need a plan. I typically help two types of families. The first family is one who's been planning for college, and they're seeking confirmation that they're on the right track. The second type of family is someone who needs a little more awareness and understanding. They're really looking for the confidence that they can do this. Now, all families are different and unique. We have different numbers of kids, our incomes are different, our aspirations for college are all different. But what I absolutely know is every family is seeking the best plan, the best way for them to pay for college. My plan tonight is to inspire you to take action today and begin planning financially for the day you send your superstar off to college. So let's get started. Here's what you're going to learn. What does college cost? What is financial aid and how do you get it? What are you expected to pay? The government has an equation they use to determine your aid eligibility, common mistakes that do cost families money, and then lastly, what are some steps to success? It all starts with the cost of attendance. This is the sticker price, and every school has one. It's tuition, books, room and board. I like to say everything except the pizza and beer. And here at our public state schools, a 4-year diploma is going to cost about $120,000. If you're looking at a smaller private school or an out-of-state public school, now it's double. It's about $240,000. And for those of you who have the highly selective schools, baby Ivies or Ivies, we're upwards of $380,000 for a 4-year diploma. I thought it interesting to add the graduation rates because remember, your diploma comes depending on how many years it actually takes to get that. And at Arizona and a lot of our public schools, we graduate students in 4 years about 50% of the time, and 6 years about 63% of the time. Those are not great statistics. So smaller private schools, they actually do a better job, but state school, out-of-state school, again, same issue. They're graduating students in 4 years, less than half the time. But if you're considering the prestigious schools, right, they're graduating your students at a much higher rate in 4 years. Now, the reason I bring this up is because the cost of a diploma depends on how many years they're going to be in. So please use this information as a discussion point for the school that your student's ultimately going to go to. Why is it that it takes them, that they can only graduate students 50% of the time in 4 years? Seek more information. Financial aid, there's two types. There's merit financial aid and there's need-based financial aid. Merit awards are based on your students' academics. Need-based financial aid is based on mom and dad's economics. Merit means academic scholars. So you do have to have high-performing students. Grades do matter. And now, more than ever, standardized tests matter if you're looking at those selective schools. This is a wonderful website, meritaid.grids. And you can click on there, and depending on the state that your student ultimately wants to go to, you can view the schools and what their merit awards are. You can show your student that with a higher GPA or a higher test score, they would be eligible for more money financially. Now, need-based financial aid, this is mom and dad's economics, and you can get help from the federal government, the state government, and most of the help usually comes from the school your student ultimately attends. That all starts with the FAFSA. That's the free application for federal student aid. This is called the federal methodology because the federal government put it in force. There's no cost to complete it, and millions are filed annually. You will fill out the FAFSA your student's senior year, October 1st. You cannot fill it out any sooner. Now, they're going to use your financial information from 2 years prior to when your student goes to school. We call this prior, and I'll give you an example in a minute. And they do use something called the IRS data retrieval. So you're going to submit your information, and then they're going to verify it with the IRS website. Again, the FAFSA is available October 1st of your student's senior year and no earlier. And this is how it works. So if you have a junior, let's do it this way. If your student's going to college in 2026, next year, they can fill out the FAFSA their senior year, October 1st, 2025, but they're going to be using the tax returns from last year, 2024. You will need to file the FAFSA every year that your student is in college and you're looking for money. And again, it will always be that 2 years in arrears for your financial information. Once you submit it up, they will verify with the IRS website just to confirm that the numbers you put in are exactly what you're reporting to the IRS. There's another form called the CSS Profile. This is really, it's the institutional methodology, and this is for more of your private elite schools that have very large endowments. The CSS Profile is only required by about 300 schools. It is a much more in-depth look into your finances. If you're asking them for money, they're going to want you to prove it. Again, the date is October 1st of your student's senior year, and there is a small fee to complete this. Now, why? Why the FAFSA? Because the FAFSA signals to the federal government and colleges a term called SAI, or Student Aid Index. This is the amount of money the government says you can afford to pay to send one child to college every year. Now, again, this is what you're expected to pay, and the factors used here are mom and dad's assets and income, students' assets and income, and your parents' age. Here's the formula. We're going to start with the parent contribution, and they assess about 10 to 25% of your income. Now, if you make closer to $100,000, it's going to be closer to 10%. If you make over $250,000, it's going to assess at 25%. Then there's assets, and assets include everything, and those are assessed at 5.6%. So assets are stocks, bonds, mutual funds. A 529 is considered a parent asset, not a student asset, and a 529 is assessed at that 5.6%. Cash, real estate. Now, FAFSA does not look at your primary residence as a source equity in your primary residence as a source to pay for college. But if you have rental income or you have a second home, they will use that because new to the FAFSA is the net worth of small businesses and farms. So you do have to calculate the value of your small business and use 5.6% of that to pay for college. Now, assets that are excluded are retirement accounts, money already in a 401k, an IRA, annuities, and cash value life insurance. Those accounts are excluded from the SAI equation. Now, students' contribution. If you have a student that works, wonderful. I love the work ethic. But if they start making more than $9,400 a year, it could negatively impact need-based financial aid. Again, you just want to understand what kind of family you're going to be. Are you going to be a need-based family or a full pay family? But most of our kids are not brushing up against $9,400 of income a year if you're working part-time at Starbucks. Student assets look like custodial accounts, things like a UTMA account or a UGMA account. Also, if your student is the beneficiary of a trust, that will be required to put on the FAFSA and it would be assessed at 20%. Let's just do some quick math. I have parents' contribution and they make $125,000. They have about $50,000 of visible assets, and the student's contribution does not come into play for our example. This family will be expected to pay $15,000 per year per student to send their kid off to college. Now, debt. Debt is one of the biggest misunderstandings families have because debt is not one of the factors used to determine your financial aid eligibility. You will fill out the FAFSA October 1st of your student's senior year. You're going to get a student aid report back, and on that report will be your SAI, Student Aid Index, or what you're expected to pay. Well, once you pick yourself up off the ground, because that number is so high, you're going to say, what? How on earth could I ever be expected to pay this? Don't they understand I have a mortgage, I have car loans, I have credit card, I have debt? And they don't know and they don't care because it's not one of the factors used to determine your financial aid eligibility. This is why working with someone like me early in the process can be very beneficial because we close the gap between what the government says you can afford to pay and what you can actually afford to pay. In some instances, depending on where you earn your income and where your assets are at, we can actually lower your student aid index. But in most cases, what we're doing is we're really looking at how the cash flow is running through your fingertips. Are you efficient with your money? Do you have any high interest debt, bad spending habits? If you do, we want to eliminate or free that up so that we can begin to repurpose money that was going to debt over into college. By lowering your SAI and improving your overall monthly cash flow, we can then close the gap and make college much more affordable. Now, need. How is need determined? You're going to look at the cost of attendance. That's the sticker price. Every school has one. Then we're going to take the student aid index, what you're expected to pay, and that's going to give you the amount of help or need that you can get for your student. Several places will help you meet need. First is the federal government. They offer Pell Grants. Pell Grants are for low-income families, and you don't have to pay these back. The maximum for 2024 is about $7,400 per year per student. And if you have an adjusted gross income on your tax return of $90,000 or less for a family of four, and you have no assets, you will be Pell eligible. Every dollar that you don't have to pay back is one more dollar, mom and dad, you get to keep for your future. The college that your student ultimately goes to, they help as well, and they can help in a couple different ways. They give us free money, my favorite, loans, or they don't have to do anything. If your student is not an academic scholar, then schools do not have to help if they don't want to. Remember, money is what schools use to entice you to send your student to their school. Here's what free money looks like: discounts, grants, scholarships, tuition reduction, and school financial award. Now, if you just walk through that SAI equation and said, I'm not eligible for any need-based financial aid, don't be discouraged. As long as you have an academic scholar, we have many generous schools out there. Remember, merit money is not connected to mom and dad's income at all. It's based on your student's academics. So if you're a full pay family choosing the right type of schools, you can have access to many dollars to help lower your out-of-pocket costs for college. Now, for many of you, borrowing will be a piece of your paying for college plan, and you can borrow from the federal government. You can get student loans. Mom and dad, you don't have to qualify for these. These are all on your students. The first year, you can borrow $5,500, then $6,500 their sophomore year. Junior, senior, and plus year, they can borrow $7,500. The interest rate on both student loans and parent loans is determined by Congress. Right now, it's about 5% for student loans, 5.5%. Now, subsidized means that the government does not charge you interest while the student is in school. Unsubsidized means you are accruing interest while the student is in school. Subsidized or unsubsidized, that is based on mom and dad's economics. So depending on your financial situation, you may or may not be accruing interest, or your student accruing interest while they're in school. Now, parent loans. These are parent loans for undergraduate students. Current interest rates on these right now are about 9%. You can borrow the entire cost of attendance. There is a 4.5% origination fee, and repayment is required in about 6 months after the first distribution. You can seek private loans, maybe from your bank or your credit union, a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, where you can borrow against your equity, or maybe even a refinance. If you have a brokerage account and you don't want to sell the stocks, bonds, mutual funds that's in there, you can also borrow against those. It's called a margin loan. Again, depending on your relationship with your broker, you may or may not have access to a margin loan. A 401k loan. You can borrow up to 50% of the value of your 401k, or $50,000, whichever's less. Again, your company will determine, though, if 401k loans are even possible. And lastly, cash value life insurance. If you have a cash value policy, you can borrow against that cash value as a source to help pay the college expense. Now, how much money is available? There's something called a net price calculator, and depending on your school of choice, you can go to the website, populate it with mom and dad's economics and students' academics, and they'll give you an idea of what your out-of-pocket costs are going to be. Now, every school is different, wildly different. The percentage of need they meet is different compared to how much of it would be free money compared to loans, compared to nothing. And I want to give you an example of that now. We're going to compare two colleges. This family has an SAI as determined by the FAFSA of $20,000. They're looking at two schools. The first school has a high cost of attendance of $82,000, and school B has a low cost of attendance of $35,000. Again, what do we care about? What you ultimately write the check for. So here we have the high cost of attendance school, $82,000. You're going to subtract out the SAI, which means you're going to have need. This family has $62,000 of need. Now, my cost of attendance is lower for school B, but my SAI remains the same. It doesn't matter what school I go to, my SAI will remain the same. So $20,000. But even with low cost of attendance, I still have need with this school, $15,000. Now, my high cost of attendance school, they're very generous. They're going to meet my need 100%, and they're going to do it 90% with gift money and 10% with loans. My low cost of attendance school, they're not quite so generous. They're going to meet my need only at 60%, and they're going to do so 10% with gift money and 90% with loans. My high cost of attendance school, I have no unmet need. My low cost of attendance school, I actually do have unmet need. We call that gap, and the family has to come up with it. So when I whip my checkbook out to pay for college, I have to pay the student aid index, loans, and any unmet need. And if I add those all together, you'll see my low cost of attendance school, I'm writing a check for $34,000 a year. My high cost of attendance school, I'm writing a check for $25,500 a year. Let me also add that my high cost of attendance school can graduate my student with a much higher probability in 4 years than my low cost of attendance school, which means this diploma actually cost almost $85,000 less at the high cost of attendance school. So please don't let cost of attendance scare you off. What we care about is what you're ultimately going to write a check for, and school selection matters in that equation. Here are some top mistakes after 18 years and hundreds of families that we run into. Families don't fill out the FAFSA. They say, I'm not going to do it. I make too much money. I'm not interested. The bottom line is I've seen thousands of tax returns, and what I know is people who think they won't qualify do, and those that think they will qualify won't. So let's get the facts before we would determine whether to fill it out or not. Picking the wrong schools. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. And it seems like there's 10 schools that all of our kids want to go to. There are 2,500 four-year universities here in the United States, and some are just far more generous than others. So depending on your students' academics and what major they're pursuing, I have the ability to marry those two together to try to maximize your aid, whether it be merit or need. We just went over this. Not all financial aid is equal. You could have a school that meets 100% of your need, but does it with all loans, or you can have a school that meets 50% of your need and does it with free money. Understand your award package will have a big impact on your checkbook. Not understanding the formulas. There's been a couple changes. The first is FAFSA has eliminated the sibling discount. It used to be that when you had two kids in college at the same time, you would get a 50% discount for your kids. That is no longer. That was eliminated by Congress. The second is they are now including small business and farms. So evaluating those entities and putting a net worth on them, that matters too, because now that's reportable on the FAFSA. And then lastly, if you're a divorced couple, only one parent will fill out the FAFSA. It's the custodial parent. And according to the FAFSA, the custodial parent is the parent who's had the majority of the financial responsibility for that student over the past 12 months. That's who will fill out the FAFSA on your kid's behalf. Lastly, not getting guidance. If I have a toothache, I'm going to go to a dentist. And if I'm getting sued, I'm going to go to a lawyer. For middle-class families, college will represent the second largest expense you will have outside of your mortgage, and you don't have 30 years to finance college. Work with somebody who knows the financial roadmap to college. All right. Even if you don't think you're going to qualify, do file the FAFSA. There's a lot of reasons for it. So the first is to show schools you are a full pay family. If you're in a competitive situation and you're a full pay family, there is a possibility that would impact admissions. Use tuition discounts. So if a school knows you're a full pay, they would happily give you a discount to come and pay 60 or 70% of the cost of attendance, as opposed to not having you at all. Again, you need to have an academic scholar, and we have to be open-minded about the schools that our students are going to. Some, not all, but some merit awards are based, do require, forgive me, you filling out the FAFSA. But if you do need to fill out the FAFSA for a merit award, the school will notify you and let you know of that. If you're seeking loans, federal loans, either student loans or parent loans, you do need to fill out the FAFSA. And now we have about 12 states that actually require that you fill out the FAFSA. So you don't even have a choice. Right along with the application, you have to submit the FAFSA. Arizona is not one of those states, but California, Colorado, Texas, Kansas, Tennessee, Chicago, Illinois, there are several states, like I said, 12 today, that are requiring the FAFSA along with those applications. Now, I've already gone through this. Well, I'm still going through it. So I have a junior at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I help hundreds of families, but I'm also a college family myself. And I know what you want, right? We want our kids to be happy. We want them to find a school that they're going to flourish at so that they can launch their careers and hopefully get off our payrolls. But we want as much help as we can possibly get. I wanted as much financial aid as we could get for Madison. And we do want to keep our promises. I know that I told my daughter that whatever school she got into, I would pay for. Well, she applied to USC, and USC is $92,000 a year. I was panicked. Thank goodness she didn't get in. Like I said, she's at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo having a wonderful experience. Everything worked out just like it could, but we do want to keep our promises to our kids and actually retire one day. I say this all the time. Your kids are not going to care that you paid for college if you have to move in with them when you're 75 because you're out of money. So with a plan, you can successfully help your kids with college and protect your retirement. If you're looking for some facts, a school's cost of attendance, what your student aid index is, are you going to be a need-based family? You can head over to my website for a personalized college planning report, monicafelton.com. You're going to click the tab here that says college report. And yes, I want a personalized college planning report. A calculator is going to come up. I need an accurate email address to send the report. You're going to give me some student information, family information. I need economics, income, and assets from mom and dad, and income and assets from students. And here you can choose your student's school of choice, and the report will be generated around that school. On my report, I just used Arizona State University because they're in my backyard, where they'll give you the 4 and 6 year graduation rate of 53%. It'll show you the cost of attendance. That's that sticker price. Every school has one, as well as the room and board. Now, please know sticker price includes room and board. It will tell you what financial forms need to be filled out. So this one's the FAFSA, the amount of financial aid met. So, or need met. So if you have $10,000 of need and they only are going to help you with 60%, that means they're going to help you with $6,000. Of that $6,000, 72% will be free money and 28% will be self-help. That looks like loans. This family, you will get that expected family contribution or the student aid index, and that is the number that you have signaled to the government and to the schools that you can afford to pay for college. A successful plan, I know for many of you, this information's a lot, but it's required for you to create a good plan. You need to know what it's going to cost you. You need to know what type of family are you? Are you a full pay family or are you a need-based family? Because those strategies are very different. You want confirmation that your family has the best plan to pay for college and confidence that you can do this. I hope I inspired you tonight to take action. So the action tonight would be pull out your phone and scan this QR code. That is a link to my calendar. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about where you're at. Do you need confirmation? Are you needing more confidence? It's complimentary. It is a 1-hour Zoom call, super easy. And I guarantee you'll derive great value from this call. Now, I don't care if you have one student or four, if you make $80,000 a year, $800,000 a year, if you're sending your student to community college or you have Ivy League aspirations, spending 1 hour with me will be very, very valuable. So scan the QR code or head over to my website, monicafelton.com. Reach out, I can help. Now, I have many families that say, when is the right time to start planning financially? I have a fourth grader, is that too soon? Or I have a 12th grader, is that too late? And my answer is the same to all of them. The best time to start planning was when your student was in the womb, and the next best time is today. If I can be of any help, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for joining me on this educational webinar on the financial how to send your kids to college. Good night.